Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Monday Night Customs Analyst Desk. I'm your host, Doom Geek, and I'm joined by, I don't even know how to pronounce your name.
Thank you, David. You can call me Sam. The abbreviated pronunciation of my name I've heard as ZQMD. I've heard ZQMDFG. I go by all the above.
I see. Well, Sam, we have quite a few exciting clips to go through, so without further ado, let's just jump right into it, into our first game. Sam, take it away.
Yeah. So our first game, we've got a bit of an interesting comp on the table here. One comp. Red team is really much a scaling comp driven by the Senna, Seraphine, Azir. They've got a Mumu playing tank, and Olaf is kind of a bruiser fighter off tank for them. And then on blue team, you've very much got a different story with two traditional frontliners, Sion and Leona, and then you've got kind of a front to back comp here. So uh, on paper, if red team can make it to late game, I think they've got this win. What do you think, David?
I think you got it covered there pretty good. This is a classic matchup between what looks like an early game versus a late game. It's a race against time, honestly, for both teams. One team is really trying to end it soon, and the other team is trying to reverse time, take as much time as they need to go ahead and get their scaling done. But it's going to be tricky. It really depends on how well both teams play. Let's go ahead and jump to our first clip here and see how well it plays out.
Yeah, let's do it.
So right off the bat, the game started off pretty early. They're already 2 kills off from the blue team here. And we have some attempts to do catches. Leona misses, Vigar misses, and Ari misses a charm. But the Mumu does get a catch in the Scion, and a surprising amount of burst damage from supposedly the late game team manages to take down the Scion. Now, Scion's body is a dead man walking, kind of walking around, not really able to make too much plays, and now it's 5v4, favoring the blue team. Blue team could just kind of chill out here, but it looks like Amumu's trying to make a play, and Amumu does make another play, getting onto the Leona. But this time, red team's ready with a cage and a charm, getting the team pretty splat here. Now we see Olaf kind of in the back of red team, all in their lone, kind of getting beaten out. And now, tides of turn, looks like it is now a 3v4 favoring the red team. Amumu just does not know when to stop and continues to go in. Sion now coming back here, making this a 5v2. And now, with red team getting that early lead, they will continue to push on. Sam, let's go walk through this. What happened here?
Yeah, let's take a look. So off the bat, the initial fight favors blue team, but red team is able to turn it around due to a couple of key abilities from their team. And one theme of this game you'll see is that red team has really, really good displacement abilities to prevent blue team's range from going off. Okay, so here's that initial pick. Blue team is looking good. On paper, the re-engage by Mumu looks really good, but then I'm going to slow down the cast in a second once we hit that Mumu Q, and we'll see exactly what happens to cause this fight to turn on its head. So I'm going to go from here and turn on half speed. So let's take a look. I want you guys to pay attention to the Ari, the Vigar cage, and the Caitlyn. So the Charm and the Senna forces the Senna to get stunned, and we see a 3-man Vigar cage followed by Seraphine in the middle. On the top, you can see Olaf trying to chase on the Caitlyn, but he just really doesn't have the range, and the traps are in a really good spot, so he's unable to get to their backline. And at this point, the fight is really won for red team. And then the re-engage by Mumu is just the icing on top of the cake for red team.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think in this case, once blue team came ahead off of the first win, I don't think they necessarily needed to push their luck. They could just kind of continue to buy time. They know they're the scaling team, and they can kind of continue to wait into the late game. A little bit eager by Amumu. Good engages, but maybe not the right team for it. And with that, we'll see if this pattern continues, if red team can continue to capitalize on these early game wins.
Yeah, and with that, let's dive into clip two.
Clip 2, the game has progressed a little bit. The gold is a little bit ahead favoring red team. It looks like they're trying to siege tower here. Right, Amumu gets another great grab, but this time is hit pretty hard, but actually can walk away. But Amumu gets yet another grab, and this time Amumu was maybe a little bit too low. But this time, what the Amumu did do was the rest of the team was able to follow with damage. If you notice, red team here is pretty low on health. This allows them to go ahead, and Olaf sees an opportunity. Smelling Blood goes in 1v5, but is unable to kill all of them. And now this advantage seems to be kind of a tough situation. We don't know. Red team's all super low health here. Maybe, oh, and the Senna gets caught by the Scion axe. And now, again, the red team's still barely having health here. And it looks like maybe Azir is going to position to help try to clear this up. But Amumu's back and gets another catch. Great catches. Just need the damage follow up here. And now the Azir is able to get that poke in, cleaning up. And looks like red team is dead here. It was a pretty long drawn out fight, but with blue team coming ahead in the end.
Yeah, let's take a look at that fight again in slower detail. So I'm gonna put this one again at half speed. So let's actually put it at half speed from the get-go. I want you guys to pay attention again to the Vigar, and here especially the Scion. He charges up his Q, and what this does is it prevents all the backline from attacking red team. And off the corner of your screen, you can see Azir coming back from spawn. So it's really a 4v5, even though red team is half HP. So this Vigar cage immediately preventing the Olaf Seraphine from entering their fight, as well as stunning both the Senna and the Amumu. And so when Vigar or excuse me, when Azir comes back to lane, then the fight changes. But shortly we'll see the Olaf kind of go for a limit test play here. Got a little too spicy, and so this fight quickly turns on its head. And so even though the Senna lands a nice snare, the 3-mana Mumu stun immediately forces an easy follow up from red team again.
Yeah, I think this game goes to show like the opposite of what happened in Clip 1. If the moon is there to be the body and the damage is able to follow up, big plays can happen. You know, now red team's super low, the Azir can go do the cleanup, Senna can get some damage in, the Seraphine, and all. So we just need to make sure that if there is a body or a tank in the front line, that there is proper follow up, and the tanks themselves don't go too deep like Olaf did earlier.
Yeah, and
So
David, that's a good point. One other item I'd like to point out is just the spacing on red team and the front to back is really coming to play here with Olaf not being 6 here, unable to access the back line. It means that red team is just getting a lot more damage than blue team off.
great call out there. Didn't realize Olaf wasn't quite 6 yet. Alright, and I think our next clip, the game has progressed quite a little more, so let's go ahead and see here. The gold still is pretty tight here, 8 and 8, with we're yet in another situation where kind of both teams are looking for an in. Leona misses the E, but gets a Q, flash Q in and try to follow up here. That gives enough room for the sign to follow up, and oh man, look at this. A lot going on here, but with the Mumu ult hitting everyone here, the Caitlyn is just able to put herself far enough in the back of the fight to continue laying the damage, and the rest of the blue team's not available. Azir comes in with a big Shurima wall, but now 1v4, it's still a lot for the Azir to be able to pull off. That happened all very, very quickly. So let's go ahead and slow it down a little bit. And Sam, walk us through this one.
Yeah, let's take a look again. So I'm going to put this one again at half speed. Sorry for my bad camera control. So let's start from here. So off the bat, the Leona goes in on Olaf, which for blue team is actually a pretty ideal scenario. Even misses the E, goes for the flash Q on Olaf. And if you're blue team, that's a good thing again. But the Scion ulti here is really what changed the fight. Immediately hitting both the carries, followed by the flash charm. Really nice by Ahri. The 5-mana Mumu ulti doesn't do anything because there's just not enough damage to follow up. So there's a single pick on the Vigar. But you'll see here that Olaf isn't tanky enough to survive all that damage, and just good kiting by Caitlyn here. The Azir ulti comes out at the end, but at this point it's a 1v4, a little bit too little too late, really. And so nice play by Casher to kind of stay alive here. You'll see a nice kiting, and there's the Q plus the crit. So from this point, red team just is really just snowballing over the game.
Yeah, and I think from this point on, it's going to be tough for the red team and tough for the blue team rather to continue to try to come back. They've definitely lost quite a few fights. Let's go ahead and see what happens in the last clip here. So same game. Now we can kind of look at the gold. The gold's still really tight, despite the kills. You know, a 3-kill difference. The gold is still really tight there. Leona kind of goes in, lands a pretty big ulti there, and now, oh man, the Mumu also gets in the back. Leona continues to go ahead and push their advantage here. Let's see. The fight is very much a front-to-back fight with the red team's carries being very appropriately distanced, and Amumu goes in really deep trying to get the carries off, but that's mostly just trying to delay the inevitable. When the high damage Scion and Leona are on blue team's backline, there's really just no escape, and now from this point on, it looks like red team has kind of sealed the deal to win the game. Once again, once the fights break out, a lot happens, so Sam, just go and walk us through this one.
Yeah, let's put this one at 3/4 speed because this fight is a little drawn out. So actually, you'll notice the Senna coming back from spawn, and Caitlyn is not there either. So really, this is a 4v4. Nice ulti onto the Seraphine, and then nice pick onto the Olaf. The Olaf is just not tanky enough this game to survive all that burst. And then there's the 4-mana Mumu Q. Really great ultimates by Mumu. But you're just seeing here, there's just not a lot of damage, and the scaling hasn't kicked in for blue team yet. And so once these tanks get on top of the carries, it's really just mowing them down. Good kiting by the Ari and Vigor, just kind of front to back. But at this point, it's kind of just you'll see the Scion and Leona just throwing their bodies forward, and blue team doesn't really have an answer for it.
Wow. And with just that, the red team go ahead. Team one managed to go ahead and take it for the win. Do we have any like general comments for like across the board for trends that you saw in this game?
Yeah, one thing I think is worth noting is that frankly, blue team's itemization didn't favor the comp. So two champions in particular didn't itemize optimally. One of them being Senna went grasp, not allowing them to chew through the tanks. And the second one being Olaf went lethal tempo plus crit build, and you just see him kind of melt in these fights before he's able to get relevant. In addition to that, Caitlyn has just too much range for Olaf to reach consistently.
Wow, these early versus late game matchups, always super fascinating. Let's go ahead and see if the next game we have to look at today is a similar thing. So, let's go take a look at the next game.
Yeah. David, did you want to talk about the comps?
Yeah, so with this, the teams here look pretty pretty extreme. With Team 1, you have a whole bunch of kind of like AoE champs, no real ADC on Team 1. A Zed. With Team 2, we're looking at something a little more traditional. You have a frontline, a mage, an ADC, and also a Zillion. Right off the bat, this looks pretty interesting because I feel like the Zillion is a really good counter against the Zed. Team 1 not having a real ADC. This is gonna be. I feel like from the get-go, I like Team 2 more than Team 1. Team 1 looks like they kind of want to do this AoE team fighting thing, but there's no consistent source of damage. What do you think here, Sam?
Yeah, David, you bring up a good point that Team 1 has no consistent source of damage. The only one really being Swain, and Swain being a close range consistent damage means you're really at risk of him getting bursted out or just kited in general. So one thing I think is worth noting is that red team only having one ranged champion, one melee champion, means that they're certainly outranging blue team. And so it's really just a matter of if they can maintain that front to back team fight. If blue team can get a scattered team fight where the assassin and Swain and Gangplank is able to get good DPS off, then that's the team fight they're looking for. So let's see how this one plays out.
Yeah, let's get to it. So right now we're looking at the game. It's pretty early on. First blood hasn't even happened yet, and both teams are kind of looking for a potential win. A lot of poke coming down. The Zillion bombs forced the Morgana back out, but the Nautilus managed to get a very solid hook in the GP. GP's an orange right away. Cal's on top of it right away, and the rest of the blue team just piles on this damage. Where's the follow-up from red team? I think red team is kind of there trying to keep them at bay, but I think they might have gotten scared off by the rest of the blue team. It happened pretty quick. Sam, break it down for us.
Yeah, let's take a look at this fight again. So we're gonna go to half speed. Couple characters I want you guys to focus on. Sorry if I can navigate this correctly. So one being, look at the positioning of the carries on red team, and I want you guys to focus on who is able to get damage off on this gameplay, and why this pick wasn't able to get manifested into first blood for the red team. So nice zoning Zillion ultis. Gangplank is just zoning. So here comes the Nautilus Q, landing nicely on the Gangplank. So Alistar comes in with a counter engage, really just one target. But I'm going to pause right here. Look at that Swain eyeball, and then look at the Zed. Zed landing a nice WQ combo to immediately zone off 3 DPS for red team. Red team is completely split down the middle, and so even though there's the pick, the damage is completely zoned off. And notice Jinx is unable to get a single auto attack off in this fight. Really just the stun after the pick happened, and then here's a W. So really you'll just see that the red team wasn't able to get that front to back fight that they're looking for.
Got it. And then I think that's a really good call out. It's not immediately apparent because you're watching the fight play out at the top of the zoning plays that the Zed and the Swin are doing. Let's take a look at the next clip. And this is seems like a pretty low kill game. You know, you're at 16 minutes and it's only 9-6. So I feel like both teams have been playing pretty cautious. There is a little bit of a goal difference. Oh, and here goes Swain, 1v5 in. Surprisingly still alive, and Brand goes down in the fight. The rest of the blue team's moving up pretty quick here too. And it's quickly really snowballing here. Zed tries to ult in the Jinx there, but Jinx gets Zillion ulted and backs off. Now heavily favoring blue team. Blue team's not done though. Cal goes in and they manage to pop both of the carries, leaving just Zillion. Oh, and blue team's still not done. Zillion getting snowballed by Gangplank for an ace. Wow, that was a snowball, for lack of a better word to describe it. Like that fight really progressed once they got rolling.
Yeah. So let's take a look again. Let's go to half speed. So if you look at one thing to point out at blue team, they have 4 snowballs in their team. So a lot of engage options. Even the Gangplank has a snowball, which is pretty spicy if you ask me. Now Swain lands a snowball on Oriana, and so the thing about the quadruple snowball and the quadruple carry of red team is that a snowball on anyone on red team except for Nautilus is a good engage. So lands the snowball, immediately goes in. A nice black shield from Morgana to extend the longevity of the Swain here. And you'll see red team gets entirely split off. So let's replay that again. Look at this Swain in the middle, just splitting this entire team off. And Bran, being one of the carries, needs to stay alive and get damage off. But you'll see Bran really just doesn't get damage off, gets CC to death, and not a lot of damage from him. And then notice the Zed on the Jinx. So a Zillion ulti to save the Jinx, but the Jinx really isn't getting auto attacks off here. And so this is the same trend as the first clip is there's some nice ability usage from blue team to prevent red team from getting their damage off. And what went under the radar is this 4-man Oriana ulti that no one's able to follow up on just because they're all too low.
Yeah, for sure. I think, as unfortunate as it is, I think we can probably count the number of auto attacks Jinx does on one hand in this fight. Jinx really needs to kind of make sure that with how many chonkers are on blue team, seems to be able to let down the damage a little bit. I think also once Zillion gets the ult on Jinx, Jinx should feel emboldened instead of still continue to be scared. A lot of to give credit to the red team, there's a lot of chaos caused by the blue team. Once the fight kicks off, there needs to be a lot of coordination to target focus. So, and with that, the game does ultimately favor the blue team coming out with a victory there.
Yeah, David, I think one thing you bring up that's a good point is just the ability to cause chaos, and that's something that you'll see is a weakness of these heavy ranged comps. In this type of map is theoretically, you know, this map is always team fighting, should favor poke heavy. But if we picked 5 champions that have poke and you don't have enough front line, then you're just going to get run over by a single tank. Now, in this case, it's 4 champions with range, but you're seeing here that the front line isn't enough. And in the previous game, the losing team had an Amumu and an Olaf. So we'll call it kind of 1.5 tanks. And really just wasn't enough to stand up to the 2 traditional tanks of the winning team. So that's an interesting point to bring up in kind of these drafting theory that hopefully we'll see tonight.
And with that, that will go ahead and conclude our analysis for today. Just like you were saying, more exciting games for this evening. Let's see everyone bring their best, and we'll get some exciting clips for next week. I'm David.
Sam, thank you for tuning in, guys.
Until next time. Catch you later.